Stuart, you got a squad update for us this morning?
Yeah, we've not had our challenges to seek again in terms of injuries. I think a lot of the long-term ones that we spoke about, your John Obikas, Mika Biereth, Connor Wilkinson, Pat Swarry, we kind of know where they are. But unfortunately we had a few to add to that over the last sort of week and a half as well. I think the club had mentioned about Blair Spittle, Liam Kelly was documented, Shane Blaney, so again with probably another 3 to add into the mix. But for those guys, they're edging closer towards fitness, but again they remain doubts for the game, unfortunately, and it's just a case of whether we can get enough work into them, get them on the park and see whether they're available for Saturday. But as it stands just now with all three, there's absolutely no certainty on that.
How bad's Liam Kelly's?
The problem is back, but the one thing I would say with regard to Liam, yeah, I think it was. I'm sure he'll agree along with Steve that it was something that had to be done. He had to pull out of the squad. I think anybody that knows Liam understands his professionalism and his will to play, and again, well documented his record at this football club. He plays games. He's generally fit. But he's been working away tirelessly since he left the Scotland camp. He's been through a few appointments, a couple of procedures, and it's just really a case of how that settles over the next day or two. We'll find out. He's done a lot of travelling to make sure he's seen the best people to put him in place to try and have a chance to play in the game. But again, I can't confirm that at this minute in time, unfortunately.
Joe Efford's left the club.
Yeah. There's a couple of factors in the Joe Efford situation. It had been stop-starts in my time of coming in. Joe had a bad injury to his quad before I'd come in, was fighting his way back to fitness. There'd been a lot of kind of stop-start in that with other knocks and niggles and, trying to work him through a pre-season. Joe got an opportunity against Kilmarnock, and very similarly, Joe's never been a problem to me. I need to go on record in saying that, but I think sometimes in football you need a fresh challenge and you need a fresh start, and that's how I see it. My voice isn't going to resonate with absolutely everybody. My message, my methods isn't going to measure up with everybody. I think what I have done and the football club have been very, very fair with Joe, really fair with Joe. And as I say, he's been a kind of model professional in terms of how he goes about his business here. But sometimes you almost have to hold your hands up and say that there needs to be a fresh start, there needs to be a bit of a change, whether that's country, whether it's method of what's happening at a football club. And then there's probably another bit on it as well. And we never talk about it too much, and we managers don't get a lot of credit for it, but it's the financial side of it as well. Joe's was one of the top earners at the football club, and I'm immensely proud with the work that's been done over the summer in conjunction with the board, the chief executive, head of recruitment, myself, other members of staff at the football club, that we've managed to really kind of trim things down. Now, managers always want the biggest budget they can get, and they always want to have loads and loads of options. We know we don't have loads of options at this minute in time, but the situation with Joe brings us back to exactly where we were trying to be as a football club, and what we'd kind of stated, or what the board had stated was their ideal number for a budget. So again, I have to go on record and say a huge amount of thanks to people who have been involved in that, because that's been a tough process. It's not easy. We don't have that blank canvas and that endless supply of money, so that's another little bit that goes into it that really brings us really back level to where we wanted to be. So in that, Joe gets an opportunity to move on in his career and potentially get out to what he wants.
Is that a worry gone now that you've got the finances down to where the club wanted them?
It's not so much a worry. It's something that we've always been working towards. I've tried to be patient when speaking to you guys, and that it doesn't just happen overnight. You're not able to do it. If you were asking me, did I think we could get to the position that we're in just now at the start of the summer, I would have probably said no. But again, that's the challenges that football clubs, managers, they have. There was a degree of leeway in terms of we knew we might be a fraction over that, just depending on how the situation falls. But a possible option come up for the likes of Joe we're speaking about just now, and again, that just gives us a wee bit of a chance to balance things off. What we are now is another player light, which is difficult with the number of injuries that we have. But again, it's trying to get that balance between the numbers, the squad, the balance, but also what that budget looks like and where you want it to be.
What does that financial balance do? What benefits is it that you have reached that point earlier than maybe you thought? Put that in context in terms of the club, please.
Again, this is something I could probably speak long and hard about. Most managers could. In my previous job, my job was to reduce a budget like you wouldn't believe, significantly reduce a budget. And somebody once told me that you never get a thanks for it, and I think they're absolutely right. I think they're absolutely spot on. We always sit here and plead poverty, and again, I'm not trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes, but what we have to make sure is that we have a competitive team out in the pitch and that we're reaching our goals. But all the while, football clubs have to they have to exist. They have to run accordingly. So again, it's about me buying into that, but obviously trying to eke as much out of it as I possibly can to make sure that the supporters get to see the best quality of players and as many options as they possibly can. But I generally think that where I am and where many clubs are in Scottish football, I think I'd heard Davy Martindale speaking about it in his press yesterday. A lot of us are sitting in the same boat. That doesn't mean we can't be successful. I think sometimes it just means that we have to be pragmatic, and I think people have to understand that it's not just as simple as sitting with a list of players and putting our finger on one and saying that's who we're going to go for. There's an awful lot of time and effort that goes into that. There's one or two fallouts along the way as well, and I know the guys in the board who are terrific here. They're really good people. Will laugh at me saying that, but it's only ever because you want the best for the football club and you want to do the best you possibly can, but understanding the nature of the beast sometimes that in Scottish football, then we have to cut our cloth accordingly, not just say it, we actually have to do it.
In terms of the footballing side of things, how would you assess where Motherwell are the first sort of part of the season as we now head into this sort of next phase after the international break?
We've had a good start. That's all it is. That's all it is. I probably bored people by saying it and not getting carried away. I think everybody wants to see you jumping through hoops and saying that here we are 4 games into a season and we sit level at the top of the league. I'm not going to do it. It's the start to a season. That's what it is. I just think that we've got loads out of the players that we have at our disposal. I don't think I can ask much more than what I've seen in the second 45 against Hearts, and I just mean purely on the basis of sticking to a game plan, putting your body in the line, energy levels, playing through the pain barrier. I can't ask for another thing in that sense. We're always going to strive for more. We're always going to think that we can do more. There's a reason why I say that as well, because I see it on a daily basis, and it's just trying to find not so much a level of consistency, because I think since February the level of consistency has been incredible. You see the numbers, you see the stats that the players have been able to produce. It's a real good run. I probably more go into the depths of can we do it more consistently for 90 minutes, where we've had one good half and the other half's maybe not been as good. Those are the things that we're looking to do. The player development aspect of it, as you guys will know, is massive to me. Trying to get more out of players, get them to make better decisions and be more consistent at this level. But what we have done is we've gave ourselves a decent platform. We've started the season relatively well. We now come into a real tough string of games. Of course we do. St Mirren this weekend is going to be incredibly difficult. And then looking beyond that, there's some tough games to come. But the one thing I know is that if we can keep applying ourselves the way we have done and keep performing to the levels that we have done, we give ourselves a chance. We absolutely give ourselves a chance. And then hopefully through time we start to get more players back in that can freshen things up and can give us more options. But there's no point in sort of crying about that just now. We just have to make sure that we're getting the best out of the players that are available. And I have to say we're absolutely getting that at this minute in time.
When it comes to the international break, there's sort of two minds. Of the first one being it gives a chance for a few players to get a breather after you mentioned a very positive start. The other one is it might be a momentum killer because you then stop for 2 weeks and that flow of games isn't obviously continuous. Where do you sit on that? How's it been for you guys?
I'm always big on what's the situation that you face. So it was an international break. We didn't have a competitive game. We had a bounce game. We played Kilmarnock here last week, which was good for us to involve one or two that haven't had enough game time and some younger players. But I need to be realistic in this as well, that if the game was played last week, we would have been really short on players. So I suppose if I take that aspect into account, it's probably worked out all right for us. What comes next and whether it's it breaks momentum or whatever, again, I don't get too hung up on that. I just more look in terms of the injury list, and that if it was played last week, then I think we would have been in a real tight spot in terms of trying to fulfil a full squad. But that extra week might give us a chance to get a few more back involved. So that's what was presented, and again, for us, it's just to make sure that we maximise that as best possible. Different ways of looking at it. Some clubs would have given players in groups a lot of time off. Some would have worked it right through. We tried to give the players 1 or 2 days, but we got the work into the guys that were available to train. And again, just a big believer in that. Don't shut the football club down for a week, because it can become hell of a hard to get it going again.
What's the situation with the player, and how much of a blow might that be if he's out?
No, again, he took a knock. I think if anybody's seen the game against Hearts, he took a knock on landing. So Blair's a guy that trains every single day, so the fact that he's not been able to train is an obvious concern. But again, I'm hopeful with his fitness levels being what they are, the amount of minutes he's played, then we just need to wait and see how he comes through today and possibly tomorrow to set us up for Saturday. But it's an obvious concern if you've got one of your guys that's been performing at a real top level and plays every minute for us as well, then it's a concern when he's not in the training part. But as I say, hopefully that situation gets better in the next couple of days, but there's no certainty surrounding it at this minute.
You mentioned that Joe leaves just like the white squad boys. Is there any scope to bring anybody in on like a fee factor or
No, it's not anything we're looking at this minute in time. Again, I'll go back to it. We're working tirelessly. The medical guys are doing a great job to try and get as many players back and available for me as they possibly can. Takes time. It's a slow process, unfortunately. But no, we're not looking in that free transfer market at this minute.
What do you expect from the game against St Mirren on Saturday? The only game that's beat you so far this season. I can't imagine you could take the guy to let that go.
No. It's, again, of course, any defeat hurts, especially on a good run. When you lose a game of football, it's a tough one to take. But you know, we lost to a good team. I'm going to go back to that. I said this before the game in the Viaplay. We're playing against a really good side. They've been spoken about a lot in the press because they've been doing well, because they've got a good manager, because they've got real good options and a good squad of players. So I go back to it. It's a hard game for us, but I think it's two relatively well matched teams. I think that's been shown in a couple of games, and league standings and all the rest of it. Games won, then I think it shows you that in my opinion, it's two good teams in this league, and I look forward to the game on Saturday, and I'm sure they will as well.
Sure, I want to talk to you a bit about the national team. Flying just now, Scotland doing ever so well, barring that game against England, of course. I know Liam is injured just now, but all going well this season, you would imagine if we get to the Euros, Liam will be in that squad. What will that mean for you in this club? And do you speak to your players, about that, about Liam and maybe others getting involved with that in mind next summer?
Again, a good question, and something I think that we all want to kind of talk about, and rightfully so. The people that have got the knee-jerk reaction will sit and go, oh, England beat us and beat us well on Tuesday night. Yeah, they did, because they've got absolute world-class players, let's be honest. I think the job that Steve and his players, that consistent group have done over this last stretch has been incredible. I think it's really positive for the nation, but I think for Scottish football as a whole. And I think for any player to be a part of that at this minute in time, it looks to me as if they've got that club mentality, that club real feel-good factor. Our physio here, Davy Henderson, is also the physio for Scotland as well, and you see him when he comes back from international duty as well as somebody like Liam, then they're doing some real good things as a group. So it would be great for any club to have a player involved in that. Doesn't matter whether it's your Liverpool players, Arsenal players, whatever that is, especially for a club like Motherwell, it would be great, and we would love as many of our guys to be involved in the national setup, be it Lennon Miller under 19s or Liam Kelly involved in that top team. But listen, I think we take away Tuesday's friendly, and we look around the positives of what's been, I don't know, what was it, 11 games, 11 consecutive victories, somewhere along that lines. That's a remarkable achievement when you look at the quality of opposition they've been playing against. So good opportunity for me to say full marks to everybody involved. They're going great guns, and hopefully we can have a player or two involved.